Hello, YouTube. My name is Vince White. I'm an employment attorney, and recently I did a video on forensic retaliation, which I will link in the doobie-doo down below. And there was an interesting comment from David T on that video, where he said, retaliation claims are generally easier to prove, but this type, namely by what you mentioned at the beginning of the video, seems as though it'd be even easier yet to prove. The burden shifting tilts even further in the plaintiff's favor, it would seem, based upon a pretext of something which happened so long ago. Employers make up excuses and lies for everything, but this one is easy to spot. And I thought a video about how forensic retaliation can be proven, and kind of the forces at play when you're dealing with this kind of claim could be valuable. So David's absolutely correct. Obviously, David knows his way around employment law. So what he's saying is, hey, there's a burden shifting on a retaliation case, right? The employer will have a presumption. If you've engaged in protected activity, complaining of sexual harassment, complaining of discrimination, complaining of unequal pay, things of this nature, and then the employer does something negative to you, there's a presumption that that negative workplace consequence you've suffered is retaliatory, right? That the employer is retaliating. And so you have this claim, this retaliation claim, in addition to the original claim that you may have had for discrimination or sexual harassment. In these forensic retaliation claims, where they're, and watch the other video, because I'm going to very quickly run through forensic retaliation. Essentially, they're combing through the entire employee's history to find a reason, which could, in fact, be a legitimate reason, to terminate the employee, right? And the example I used was like, oh, they had an employee, I think the hypothetical Sarah makes a complaint of sexual harassment, and they comb through 30 years of Sarah's employment and find that like 10 years ago, she played a little fast and loose with her expense account, right? Took some family out to dinner or something like that, right? And now that would generally, like taking fake expense report stuff is good grounds for termination in most situations. But here, I would argue it's not, because of course they only went back into the search without any valid business reason besides the goal of getting the squeaky wheel, the complainer, the person raising the issue of discrimination or sexual harassment, out of the workplace. They want her out, right? And to David's point, he feels it's even more obvious. I don't know that I necessarily agree, because a lot of finders of fact, administrative law judges, juries, they'll get hung up on the ancient misdeed of the person, right? So I'll give you an example. We'll stick with Sarah, right? So you go to trial on hypothetical Sarah's case, and you're presenting her complaints of sexual harassment, and you're presenting all this stuff, and the employer's presenting, yeah, but we fired her because of the expense account thing. And you can watch the jurors internalize that Sarah lied. That's what they think, right? Sarah lied about her expense account. Sarah did something that was imperfect. And as human beings, we're not amazing at putting ourselves in Sarah's shoes, right? None of us are perfect. No human being, no employee is perfect in their employment. Just the way it is. There's no such thing as a perfect employee. So what I would say is we should apply like a real standard. Like, hey, that's in 30 years of successful employment, she had one small indiscretion. That's pretty great. And this termination is clearly, to my mind, retaliatory. But you can watch certain jurors, certain judges obsess. Hypothetical Sarah's not perfect. Hypothetical Sarah's lied before. Hypothetical Sarah stole almost $180 off her expense account. You know, and they spin, and you need to interrupt that process. So yes, I think to my mind and to David's mind, forensic retaliation looks ridiculous. Like the defense trying to engage in this looks like this last ditch Hail Mary, try whatever you can. This isn't going to work and this is ill advised, but we have to try something effort, right? But but if presented very carefully, and if the plaintiff's attorney, the me of the world, doesn't defend that correctly, certain judges and certain jurors are going to bite on that pretext for termination. So yes, I agree with David. It looks ridiculous. That forensic retaliation should be the easiest thing in the world to prove. And if you handle it correctly, it can be. It really can be. It can be a stupid thing the employer engages in, or even the employer's counsel engages in, that you can kind of like smack them around on. But if not handled correctly, it can be dangerous. And keep in mind, defense attorneys, they have many repetitions. They run many cases. They would stop making the forensic the argument that, oh, this person did something 15 years ago, 10 years ago. They would stop making that argument if it never worked. They continue to make that argument because they know sometimes it works. If it's not handled correctly by the other side, if you get the wrong juror, if you get the wrong judge, it can work. So, yes, David, I agree with you, with cautioning, with a caveat that says you got to be careful, right? I mean, how often do soccer players score from the midfield line? Almost never, right? Like if there's a goalie in the goal and you're kicking a shot from the middle of the field, it's very unlikely. It's very unlikely that you're going to score. If that goalie's asleep at the wheel and you're kicking your shot from the middle of the field, well, it might go in. It might work. And that's kind of what's going on here. If the plaintiff's attorney is not on top of this, actively fighting the fight and paying attention and taking this as a serious threat, it can work. So be on top of that. Make sure your attorney's on top of that. I hope this is helpful. I hope you're having a lovely day. If it was helpful, like and subscribe. That helped me to help more people just like you.